See that? Now, are you ready? Now listen to this. Now what did God say? He's going to shake the earth. Isn't that right? He's going to do what? Now watch this. And this word yet once more signifieth the removing of those things that are shaken as of things that are made, that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. This is the thing. If you've been shaken, how can you be shaken again? If God takes you through a shaking process, how can whatever else that is shaken shake you? He shakes his people before he shakes the world. Because we're never to be judged with the world. Do y'all hear that? Our chastisement happens separately from the world. We shouldn't be condemned or judged by God with the world, ever. It's separate. Lift your hands and say, God, I want to be a true son. Say it again. 28, read what it says. With me, loud, what it says. Wherefore, we receiving a kingdom. How many believe you've received the kingdom? Which what? Cannot be what? Moved. Let us have grace whereby we may serve God acceptably. How? With reverence and godly fear. For our God is a consuming fire. Here it gives the instruction of when God shakes the earth, how you must serve with him. The only people that's going to be working with God are reverential people. People who don't understand honor. We're not even talking about respect. We're not really even talking about honor. People who don't understand reverence cannot work with God at all. Jehovah is here, but he's about to manifest his presence this year. You got to be ready for this. You see that? Babies can be dealt with by God, but they can't serve him. They can't serve with him. They can't work with him. Sons can, because they understand fatherhood. Now lift your hands and say, Lord Jesus, help me to understand the Father. Say it again. Out of all the prophets who've ever lived, who do you really think can really teach you how to handle God? Yeah. Who can teach you how to really walk with the Father? Jesus. He was a real son. I didn't say a prophet. It's different. A son, which is title son, not lowercase, capital S, which is the office. Sonship, office. Son is greater than a prophet because he is a prince to the king, or he is a king to the emperor. See that? All of it is royalty. When you talk about sons, when everybody talks about sons, it never talk about church. It talk about heirs. When you talk about heirs and joint heirs, those words describe what's in a kingdom, not in a church. So when you start talking about sonship, you're talking about royalty. Your sonship is in the royal realm. Your prophetic office is in the church realm. They are two different things. Jesus was not only God's prophet, he was God's son. He knew how to be a son. And some of the prophets that were in the Old Testament came into sonship. A lot of them never did. They only stayed into their prophetic office. They never moved into sonship. It's a difference. Sonship is greater. This is what the world waits for. The church waits for a prophet. The world works for a son. It says that the creation, the earnestness, the greatest desire of the creation is yearning for the manifestation of who? Prophets? No. Apostles? No. Evangelists? No. Teachers? No. The world don't need another prophet. They don't need another apostle. They need a son. A full, mature son. This is where the church have went wrong. We have raised people up only in their priestly gifts. How many have the church birthed to the world? Sons. Sons. Yes, I understand that. I know that I'm a son. A son. I'm not a prophet only or an apostle. I'm a son. Everything is royal to me. I think royally about this whole book. My thought process is different. You know, when I was younger, I used to use my gifts. I used to use the church authority, the powers and the governing offices that God put on my life. Those rams. I would do the prophetic. I would draw the large crowds. I'll still do that when God leads me to. But the church waits for that, not the world. The world is looking for sons. Sons rule. They reign with the Father. They have the ability and the maturity to work with the Father. And the earth wants and they desire. Let me say this. It's not about us. It's not even about us being sons, although we must. But the creation is groaning, not so much just because of us. For the sons, they know that once we become sons, the Father will be directly involved. And they yearn for who created them. Who created the creation? God the Father did that. They are yearning for that. They know that once the sons get in place, the Father has to work. The Father has to operate and bless them. Do you see that? You must understand that your royalty is outside of the church. It's not in the church, it's outside. So many people have been trying to be ministers that they forgot to be sons to God. Do you understand when you become a son to God, you're greater than some prophet or apostle, or you become a son. You become a son. See? One of your main trademarks as a son is great authority, great governing power, reigning power, controlling the 5 elements upon earth: water, land, sea, air. Totally controlling the natural elements. When you become a spiritual son to the Father, you have the full rights and powers of another world, of that being who's your Father. You have the same powers he had to make land come out of the water, and to reverse the effect and to make water move so land can come. You can walk on dry ground. The splitting of the Red Sea was already done in the beginning when God says, let that land come up out of the water when he created the earth. That's the same power, people. Moses was a son. He's one of the only prophets in the Old Testament that went past prophetic ministry into sonship. He was a son. That's why he called Israel, he says, thou art my son. Told that to Israel in Exodus, in Deuteronomy. Thou art my son. See that? I brought my son out of Egypt. See that? God is into sons. He says, you shall consider that all this discipline I've done with you in the wilderness, as a father chasteneth his son, so have I done you.